Okay. Want to get started? Stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Mayor Mahler,
Present.
Councilor Gerson,
Present.
Councilor Nash,
Here.
Councilor Trask,
Here.
Councilor Goebel,
Here.
Councilor Gorley,
Here.
and Councilor
Present.
Let the record show we have all present with no absent. Motion for consent agenda.
So moved.
Second. Moving second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let the record show we have 7 ayes with no nays. Approval of the consent agenda. Recognition of visitors and hearing of petitions. Anybody who'd like to come forth, be heard before council. Moving on to old business, informational only, ordinance number 7 for 2020, water systems in critical affected chemical area.
You have a memo in your packet. I don't know if Robert has anything to add, but at the time we were putting the packets together, we were still trying to track down some information. I don't know if Robert, you want to add anything to that? Or?
No, we're still after information, and we do have to pass it by that. But it'll all be resolved by the next council meeting in your packet.
Okay. At this time, we will move towards public hearing. I will open the public hearing at 6:33. I will go ahead and read the hearing information. Hearing disclosure statement. For all those wishing to testify, please be aware that you must raise an issue with enough detail to afford the city council and parties of an opportunity to respond to the issue if you later want to raise that issue on appeal. Testimony and evidence must be directed towards the review criteria. If you have any questions, please wait until appropriate time and then direct your questions to the council. Please speak one at a time so the recorder knows who is speaking. At this time, on declarations of city council, any city councilor have any personal bias? Want to do roll call? Because we're on video. Let's do roll call for personal bias and the rest.
Mayor Mahler,
No.
Councilor Gerson,
No.
Councilor Nash,
No.
Councilor Trask,
No.
Councilor Goebel,
No.
Councilor Gorley,
No.
Councilor Coleman.
No.
Let the record show there is no personal bias. At this time, conflict of interest via roll call, please.
Councilor Gerson,
No.
Councilor Nash,
No.
Councilor Trask,
No.
Councilor Goebel,
No.
Councilor Gorley,
No.
Councilor Coleman,
No.
Mayor Mahler.
No. Let the record show there is no conflict of interest by council. At this time, ex parte information by roll call, please.
Councilor Nash,
No.
Councilor Trask,
No.
Councilor Goebel,
No.
Councilor Gorley,
No.
Councilor Coleman,
No.
Mayor Mahler,
No.
Councilor Gerson,
No.
Let the record show there is no ex parte information by any city council members. At this time, we will go to staff report.
I apologize for the attachments in your packet are not in the correct order, but in their staff report on this zone map amendment application and the order of approval from the planning commission. Essentially, this property is at 4472 Highway 20, 8.72 acres. It's currently zoned C2 or highway commercial. Comprehensive plan map designation is R2, high density residential. And so this application is requesting that it be rezoned to high density residential R2 and bring it into compliance with the comprehensive plan map, but also allow development of high density housing on the site. The planning commission met on May 4th and reviewed the application, held a public hearing, and voted to recommend approval of the application. And now it is before you. Because this is already in the comprehensive plan to be high-density housing, it makes it something that we recommend and like to see changes that bring things in compliance with our existing plans. So that's the gist of it. This doesn't approve the actual development, it just changes the zoning so that the development could proceed if they apply for it.
Any questions from the city council? Okay. Any additional applicant testimony from anybody? Okay. Any testimony in favor? Testimony of those wishing to speak in favor of this application? Testimony in opposition. Testimony from those wishing to speak in opposition of the application. Neutral testimony. Testimony from those that are neither in favor nor in opposition of the application. Open for any additional rebuttal. This time we will close the public hearing at 6:37. At this time, I need a decision from the council, a motion for approval, denial, remand, or continuous.
Well, Mr. Mayor,
Councilor Goebel.
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the application for ZMA 20-01.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. All in favor by roll call, please.
Counselor Trask,
Aye.
Counselor Vogel,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Aye.
Counselor Coleman,
Aye.
Mayor Muller,
Aye.
Counselor Gerson,
Aye.
Counselor Nash.
Yeah.
Okay. We have 7 ayes with no nays to move approved, and we will move it as ordinance bill number 9 to first reading this evening in ordinance bills. At this time, I will open up a second public hearing. This is a non-land use public hearing. We'll open it up at 6:39. We will go ahead and go through. Is there any, we'll just do it all as three. Any bias to council, any conflict of interest, ex parte of communications? By roll call, please.
Counselor Vogel,
No.
Counselor Gorley,
No.
Counselor Coleman,
No.
Mayor Muller,
No.
Counselor Gerson,
No.
Counselor Nash,
No.
Counselor Trask.
No. Let the record show we have no council bias, conflict of interest, or any ex parte communication by any council members. At this time, we'll move forward with staff report.
This one is for resolution number 12 in your packets. It's a supplemental budget adjustment. The reason for the public hearing is because 2 of those items that we are adjusting exceed the 10% threshold as established by Oregon local budget law. The first change is to add, sorry, I forget the number. $2,400 in expenditure authorization for the special events fund. The purpose for that is to utilize those funds to send the proceeds, the net proceeds from the Sweetheart Run in 2019 to the Sweet Home Rotary. That was not a budgeted expenditure because it took place last year, but those funds were never then subsequently paid to the Rotary. So we need to add additional expenditure authority in order to make that happen without exceeding the current limitation in expenditure authority there. In order to do that, we'll be using the unappropriated ending fund balance. So there's no added fees or anything. It's just using funds that are currently available in that special events fund to cover it. The second adjustment that required public hearing is for the public transit fund. The city of Sweet Home is the fiduciary agent for the Lynn Shuttle program, essentially. And by that, what I mean is we received the funds from the Oregon Department of Transportation, and then subsequently we write a check to the senior center for operation of the Lynn Shuttle. During the audit this year, they determined that in order to comply with GASB rules, the Government Accounting Standards Board, we needed to actually record the revenue in as a revenue item and the expenditure out as an expenditure. There was no budget established at the time when we did the initial budget, when you all adopted last May. So this authorizes the revenue line as well as the expenditure authority so that we can continue to cut those checks to the Sweet Home Senior Center. The third adjustment in that resolution did not necessarily require a public hearing because it did not exceed the 10% threshold, but it is in the resolution. We are asking to add $100,000 in the public safety fund for the purpose of purchasing the radios for the police department. If you'll remember, last year, the radios were budgeted in the 2019 fiscal year. Unfortunately, due to complications outside of the city's control, those radios did not arrive until September, making them a current year expenditure. As such, we're asking to use the funds, essentially roll the budget authority from last year to this year in order to make sure that they still have enough money to finish out the rest of the fiscal year without limiting their operations.
Any questions of counselors?
So why wasn't this addressed when we were having the budget process? Why is it this now? They're pretty close here.
The supplemental budget component wouldn't normally go through the budget committee. This was just what we try to do is get through the year to see if we're going to need additional funds. In some cases, we know automatically that yes, we're going to need additional funds to make the fund whole. What we tried to do is utilize the existing expenditure authority for the police department to cover the radios, but we weren't able to do that. So that's why it's being brought to you now. As far as the other ones, the audit was just recently completed, and that was one of the notes that they gave us to make sure that we made those adjustments. And then on the special events fund, that's a recent notification as well.
Okay, any other questions of city councilors? Okay, at this time, I'm going to open the floor for public comment, and I'll give a few minutes in case something's coming in or anybody from the public would like to comment. Anything coming in? Okay. This time we will go ahead and close the public hearing at 6:45. At this time, I need to know if there's any further discussion of counselor or any decision wants to be made by the city council.
So, Mr. Mayor, so Brendan, have we added this into this upcoming budget? The funds, have they been added into this?
For the
new budget, yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Does everybody understand that this is not new money?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So make sure it's clear that we're not asking to spend additional funds, just roll funds over that we're not spending.
And this is falling all under resolution number 11.
12.
Or 12.
12. I guess I just think that if we've allocated funds that belongs within that levy, however that looks, that should be reflected in the budget, that's still going to happen. That it hasn't occurred yet, but it's there. so it's not looking like it's usable funds, it's allocated for that and it's already separated out. And I don't remember that discussion happening at the budget meeting. And we were talking about $100,000 here. So I have no problem with spending it on what was promised for the radios. I just feel like in all the discussion about moving around money and things like that, that with all the little titles, was it clear and set aside at that time?
This,
Sorry.
That's all I need to know.
Yeah, this came out of last year's budget.
Yes, I get that.
And we ordered them, but they weren't delivered until the current year's budget.
Okay.
So you approved these radios very specifically in fiscal year 2019. We ordered them in fiscal year 2019, but they did not get delivered until fiscal year 20, which is what we're in right now.
And they wouldn't have reflected because it was
Correct.
supposed to be taken care of.
Correct.
But it was still sitting there when we did the budget, but that's okay.
Right.
I understand,
Right.
things are a little slow right now. It's okay. All right.
So Brandon, what was the total, Mr. Mayor, what was the total cost of the radios?
they came in at, I think, 99,000 and change, so it was right near that 100,000 mark.
I knew it was gonna be in that ballpark. Okay. I'm okay with this too.
Okay, I need a motion and a second or move forward. Resolution number 12 is, I see 11 here. Is that the next?
11 is the next one.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to adopt resolution number 12 for 2020.
Second.
Second.
I have a motion, a second. We need to have this by roll call, please.
Counselor Worley,
Aye.
Counselor Coleman,
Aye.
Mayor Muller,
Aye.
Counselor Gerson,
Aye.
Counselor Nash,
Aye.
Counselor Trask,
Aye.
Counselor Gobel.
Yes.
Let the record show we have 7 ayes with no nays. Approval of resolution number 12 for 2020. Next is request for council action, resolution number 11 for 2020, resolution authorizing transfer appropriations.
So this resolution is slightly different than the one you just went through. This is kind of the general housekeeping as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year. Bringing it to you before we get past June 30th. What this resolution does is takes funds appropriated during the budget process to certain items and moves it to a different line. So for example, one of the changes in here is to cover salaries in both, some salary adjustments in the finance department and the executive department, specifically to cover cash outs of accruals. We're using contingency funds that were previously budgeted, but just need council authorization in order to cover those accruals. If you'll remember, during each of the budget processes, one of the things that we do is we establish that contingency in each of those funds. We do 3% of total expenditures is set aside in there, as well as an additional 2% of all personnel costs to cover insurance changes, accrual payouts, departures, retirements, that sort of thing. So we're just asking to take the contingency funds that were set aside in the budget and move them into an actual line to be spendable, essentially. The other adjustments, again, are just kind of general housekeeping to make sure that those funds and lines do not exceed their current expenditure authority. There is some request for additional expenditures for this facility, which were kind of the last items to tie off this room specifically with the equipment in here, as well as some office equipment in addition in other offices. So, and I can answer any questions about the adjustments as you have them.
Any questions of councilors?
Yes, I have a question.
That's
So
good.
Brandon, in looking at the utilities manager hiring, said that it was hired, he was hired in 2019 after the 20 budget was adopted.
Yes.
I don't recall, was it in that budget?
It was not.
Okay.
Okay. Need a council directive on this. Any motions?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we adopt resolution number 11 for 2020.
I'll second that.
Second.
And a motion and a second. Second was by Counselor Holman. All in favor by roll call, please.
Counselor Coleman.
Aye.
Mayor Muller,
Aye.
Counselor Gerson,
Aye.
Counselor Nash,
Aye.
Counselor Trask,
Aye.
Counselor Gobel,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley.
Aye.
Let the record show we have 7 ayes with no nays. Approval of resolution number 11 of 2020. Next, request for council action, city engineer request for proposals.
We turn this over to Public Works Director Springman. And this begins on page 44.
So we brought this to you 2 weeks ago as information only. This is a contract we wrote to Murray Smith. It was a 1-year contract with an option to renew for 3 years. Given some personnel changes within Murray Smith, staff, we all agree that we would like to put this back out and see if we can seek a new engineer record that possibly could assist us a little bit better. So with that, we're asking authorization to then post this for a period of time and then enter into some sort of interview process and negotiations.
Questions of council?
Do you think this is going to be possibly a money-saving thing?
Well, that's always the hopes,
Yeah.
but it really depends on the amount of work that we're going to have. Now we're tapering, since everything's happened, we have tapered off our, we had to go back in and redo our 5-year CIP, which you guys haven't seen yet. So we're going to try to stretch out some projects. So I think just in general, we're hoping not to spend as much, but again, to fund this service, we're going to be looking at all the funds. So water fund, sewer fund, streets, we'll do streets projects, so on and so on.
Okay.
So.
Can this just be services as needed?
Yes, and it's based off the capital that's already been approved. So if, let's as an example, if I was going to bring them on, and we're going to be going and installing these new VFDs, they could actually assist with some of the engineering work that goes with that as our city engineer.
Council Director.
Mr. Mayor, so moved. Second.
Move the second. Roll call, please.
That was, so that's number 2, option 2? Okay, I'm good. I'll make sure this gets through.
Mayor Muller,
Yes.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yeah.
Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Counselor Gobel,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman.
Yes.
I have 7 ayes with no nays to move forward with request for proposals. Request proposal and contractor operator for water and wastewater treatment facilities.
This has been a year in the making. So it's a lot of information in here. We brought this to you 2 weeks ago. Again, I just want to take time to thank Trish and Stephen. They worked extremely hard on diving into the details of this RFP and then the elements of the contract. So I want to give them props on that. But we've had the discussions of the deficiencies at the water plants. I think we made a decision and had directive that we were going to go out and seek a new vendor. We've done our homework. We think we have a really good RFP and a possible good different direction and how we want to work with this new vendor. We want to pull out some of those components like electricity, chemicals. We don't want somebody to make money off of maybe some pass-through type costs. So again, we've done our homework. We're asking that we put this out for a period of time and are seeking permission to do that from you guys tonight. And if you have any questions, I will defer to Stephen and Trish as they're very much in tune with the nuts and bolts of this.
Any questions, councilors?
I don't have a question. I just want to say that I really appreciate the accountability written into this contract. I really like the contract.
It's way better.
And I had nowhere to go but up.
Well, you got a point. You do have a point.
Thanks, we think.
If there's no other questions, I need a council directive.
Mr. Mayor, so moved as recommended.
I'll second that.
Motion is second. If we can do roll call again, please.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Trask,
Yes.
Counselor Gobel,
Yes.
Counselor Worley,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Mayor Muller.
Yes. Record shall have 7 ayes with no nays to move this proposal of contractor operator forward. Request for council action, MOU with Sweet Home Rotary Club for the annual Sweetheart Run.
Is this gonna happen?
I'll turn this over to Blair here shortly, but essentially you just made a budget adjustment for this MOU. So as we put on the run, we were having difficulties getting volunteers to help at times. We were paying overtime. And so we entered into discussion with the Rotary Club, see if they would be willing to volunteer as a fundraiser for the various community projects that they use, that they perform for the community, such as the Dolly Parton Library being one example. Rotary Club is always looking for little things they can do to help the community and ways they can raise money to support different things. I'm not sure what happened and I apologize. This should have came to you a while ago. But essentially what this does is it commits Rotary to helping with the event. And then the city does a lot of the work pre to the event. And pretty much Rotary kind of runs the day of the event, the setup, the cleanup kind of work. After we pay all of our expenses, any additional revenues then go to the Rotary for their various community causes. So it's really a no cost arrangement to the city. And again, I apologize, this should have came to you, I'm gonna guess roughly a year ago or more, and did not. So I don't know if Blair wants to, I didn't want you to, Blair wasn't here, so I wanted to make sure that we didn't try and throw blame where blame didn't belong.
Right, and I think a lot of turnover in my department kind of resulted in this messages not being passed on and so forth. But this arrangement with the Rotary Club has actually been in place for the last 2 events. It just never was put in officially voted on by the city council. And so we definitely need to rectify that. The way the agreement is written is that it continues on until it's terminated by one of the other party. And so we don't have to do this every year. We can re-examine it later if it's of a concern. But it spells out what they're using the proceeds for as well. The money they are receiving is being used for their scholarship activities, their youth leadership training programs, and the Dolly Parton Imagination Library program that they sponsor. And so it's a good win for everyone kind of situation, because it relieves city staff of needing to manage volunteers on the day of, and a lot of that operation kind of goes to other people, which is really helpful for us. And then the proceeds come from the money collected at the event. So the fees that people pay to be able to run in the event and so forth. And so if the event didn't happen, none of this money would even be coming up. It's not anything that the city is losing that we would be using on something else, because we would basically be using it to pay overtime if we kept the money ourselves. So I think it's a win-win. But if you have any questions about it, I'd be happy to take them.
Yeah, I thought about the statement. I think it's been very successful. You know, and thanks for the cover for it. Nice job. Really?
Teamwork.
Yeah, it
There's an eye in your team.
just the fact.
It's been good. I think it's been good.
It's actually worked out well.
Yeah.
So, this is a precedent in terms of if we want to have an event like this, it would allow us to coordinate with other groups that might want to do something like this?
This kind of an arrangement, I used to use it all the time in my old Parks and Rec life, so to speak. It covers the city's costs, you get a great event, it involves the community, and then particularly with like a Rotary or other nonprofit group, that money just goes right back into the community in some way, shape, or form. It works really well.
I'm all for it as long as other organizations have it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Any other questions of council? Any council?
Mayor, so moved as recommended.
Motion, I need roll call please regarding this.
Counselor Nash,
Yeah.
Counselor Trask,
Yeah.
Counselor Vogel,
Yes.
Counselor Worley,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Mayor Muller,
Yes.
Counselor Gerson.
Yes.
Let the record show we have 7 ayes with no nays to move forward with the MOU with the Oswego Rotary Club. Next up is informational only, DEQ TMDL 2019 Annual Report Stormwater.
I'll let Trish kind of brief this up a little bit, but this is a report that we have to do annually to DEQ. We commit every year on a 5-year plan and things that we're going to do within town for pollutants and other things. So I'll let Trish kind of get the basis of it and then maybe answer any questions.
So last year, we brought to you the 5-year plan for adoption. You adopted it, thank you. This year, this is just our status update to show DEQ how we're coming along on the strategies that we said we were going to do. Did we meet our timelines? Do we need to adjust anything? Was anything difficult for us? So we have described that throughout the report. Some of it is physical actions, street sweeping. Some of it is regulatory with codes and permits. It's coming along pretty well. We did adjust some timelines this year due to some staffing constraints, but we're looking forward.
Any questions, council?
Was there any, just out of curiosity, any in that report regarding any runoff on the mill property?
No, not
Not from mill property. Okay, moving on. The council's already motioned second approval of ordinance number 9, so we'll move forward with first reading tonight.
Irish voice tonight.
Speed reading.
Australian.
When you gonna need to order breakfast or what?
Ordinance amending the official zoning map, whereas the applicant, Bill Lund, submitted application zone change ZMA and a zone map change for an area consisting of 8.72 acres located at 4472 Highway 20, Sweet Home, Oregon, 97386. The Sweet Home zoning map is proposed to change from the commercial highway, C2, zone to the residential high density, R2, zone. The proposed zone change would bring the zoning designation into conformity with the property's existing comprehensive plan map designation. The subject properties are identified on the Lynn County Assessor's Map as 13S01E28D tax lots 00200, and whereas the Planning Commission of the City of Sweet Home held a public hearing on May 4, 2020 with due notice of such public hearing having been given and provided an opportunity for public comments and testimony. The Planning Commission deliberated at their May 4, 2020 meeting and recommended that the City Council approve this application, and whereas the City Council held a public hearing on this matter on May 26, 2020 with due notice of such public hearing having been given and provided an opportunity for public comments and testimony. The City Council approved this application by motion at their May 26, 2020 meeting, and whereas the proposed R2 zoning is needed to facilitate development of the subject property, now, therefore, the City of Sweet Home does ordain as follows. Section 1. The City of Sweet Home adopts the findings of fact in support of zone change application ZMA 20-01 included as Exhibit A. Section 2. The City of Sweet Home amends the official zoning map, identified in SHMC 17.20.020 as the city zoning map including all subsequent amendments, for the area consisting of 8.72 acres located at 4472 Highway 20 Sweet Home or 97386, and identified on the Lynn County Assessor's Map as 13S01E28E tax lot 00200. The official zoning map shall be amended from the commercial highway, C2, zone to the residential high density, R2, zone for the subject property as shown on Exhibit B. Passed
Passed by the council and approved by the mayor this blank day of blank 2020, blank mayor attest blank city manager ex officio city recorder.
Okay. Any questions of councilors?
What took so long?
Okay, I need a council directive to move this forward for second reading.
So moved. Second.
Motion is second. All in favor by roll call, please.
Counselor Trask,
Aye.
Counselor Gobel,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Mayor Muller,
Yes.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Counselor Nash.
Yes.
On record, show 7 ayes with no nays. We'll move ordinance number 9 to the second reading on June 9th by title only. Nothing under second reading, third reading, ordinance number 6 for 2020, ordinance number 1286, local improvement district amendments by title only.
Chapter 3.16, local improvement and special assessments.
By ordinance bill number 6 for 2020, ordinance number 1286, Sweet Home Ordinance amending SHMC chapter 3.16 pertaining to the local improvement district.
Any questions of councilors? Need a motion?
This is the third reading, right?
Third reading, council directive. Roll call, yes, yeah. I first need a motion, a second.
You need a motion?
I need a motion, a second.
I'll second it.
A motion, second, all in favor by roll call, please.
Counselor Gobel,
Yes.
Counselor Gorley,
Yes.
Counselor Coleman,
Yes.
Mayor Muller,
Yes.
Counselor Gerson,
Yes.
Counselor Nash,
Yes.
Counselor Trask.
Yes.
On the record show, we have 7 ayes with no nays. Approval of ordinance number 6 for 2020. Ordinance number 8 for 2020, ordinance number 1287, text amendments to Title 15.12 flood hazard area regulations by title only, please.
City of Sweet Home, what number is it? Mine doesn't mark.
Ordinance number 8,
Ordinance number 8,
ordinance number 1287.
1287. An ordinance amending Sweet Home Municipal Code Chapter 15.12- flood hazard area regulations.
Any questions of councilors? Council directive.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor by roll call, please.
Counselor Gorley,
Aye.
Counselor Coleman. Aye. Mayor Muller,
Aye.
Counselor Gerson,
Aye.
Counselor Nash,
Aye.
Counselor Trask,
Aye.
Counselor Gobel.
Yes.
Let the record show we have 7 ayes with no nays. Approval of ordinance number 8 for 2020. Any reports from committees? Anything want to be brought up?
I met with the chamber on Thursday. We had a Zoom meeting and a meeting in person, and they're going to improve their reporting. They're developing a spreadsheet to give them Ray the information that he wanted from that last contract. They will be discussing the contract with Ray coming up. They interviewed, or they talked with 4 other people to add to their board of directors. Let's see. They talked about how to do Sportsman's Holiday or to honor the court in some way. They haven't come up with an exact way of doing that, but they're looking at that. They I asked them about how they would do the visitor center with all the protocols. They have protocols in place already. So that doesn't seem to be a problem. They are having a problem getting volunteers at this point, but they're still working on that. So they're making progress.
Cool. Any other reports from community members?
Did have the health, community health committee meet, and the city was able to give a report out some of the things they had done pre and post, what's going on. And the people who attended were able to discuss community outreach, some things they're doing. It was a good meeting.
Good. Any others? Okay, moving on. Mayor's report. Just for the record, let everybody know, on June 3rd, I will be going in for surgery. Councilor Gerson will be taking my position from June 3rd for at least 4 days, depending on how that goes. I may or may not be back on that council meeting, depending on how my recovery is. So everybody know that. City manager's report, please.
First thing I'd like to do is turn attention to Blair. We got some new information from Business Oregon today. So I'd like to let Blair fill you in on that real quick.
The state has put together some CDBG money funds and directed it toward COVID-19 recovery. They put it into two different pots. One is I forgot what they're calling it. It's a public service expansion grant that is geared toward efforts to improve services in light of COVID-19. For example, a Meals on Wheels program. You know, if your senior center doesn't have as many people coming there for meals, then it might take some money to expand their Meals on Wheels program to be able to get those meals out to people in their homes. That kind of thing. The state has, I think that pot that they've got is 1.5 million, and the maximum grant is 50,000. And so we could apply for something like that. Racking my brain, we talked about it internally here, and there are with this. However, the available through counties and cities. So any of our partner organizations would need to apply for this. So I did reach out to Boys and Girls Club and to the Senior Center to see if they have some ideas of something that could work out. The Boys and Girls Club said yes, they are providing childcare, and a lot of their activities have expanded in light of COVID-19. And so something like that, some of their operations could fit very well with this grant opportunity. I am waiting to hear back from the Senior Center, but I just barely contacted them this morning, so to give them the benefit of the doubt. The other pot of money is another small business and micro enterprise assistance program, essentially more grants that could be applied for by local businesses to help them recover and get back on their feet or retain jobs. The great thing about both of these grants is that there's no match. It's just, we don't have to commit a certain amount of funds. It's just if we get selected, we get the money and we can issue it based on the requirements of the program. So the small business grant opportunity would be, could be the state has 2 million, I believe, for that pot, and the maximum grant is 150,000. That is the only organizations that can apply for that are counties and cities that are non-entitlement counties, non-entitlement cities. That is, they don't already get HUD funding from the federal government. And so Albany is not eligible, but the rest of Lynn County is. Because of how competitive this grant, this pot of money is going to be, The Business Oregon is highly recommending that communities group together to put an application in together to make it more likely that they would be able to get anything. So far, it looks like there's at least a couple other cities in Lynn County that are interested, and there will likely be more as more of them become aware of it. There is talk of doing a county-wide program, a county-wide application that would 150,000, but it would be basically businesses would be eligible from anywhere in the county except for Albany, because Albany has their own pot of money. Whether that happens or not, every city will need to there will need to be a city that is the fiduciary, is the one making the application, and then other cities can join on. So there's a lot that's up in the air right now with this. Among the cities in Lynn County, the ones that are best positioned to be that applicant is either us or Lebanon, and Lebanon's open to it as well. Even if we aren't the primary applicant, we still would need, because it's federal money, we would need to put out notice to the public that we would be making an application for this money, and there would be a public hearing required to get public input on what we're planning on doing with the money. Now, we can be pretty high level. We don't have to have a lot of details in place, but we do need to gather public input at a public hearing. The trick is that has to happen before we can submit an application. And the minutes of that public hearing have to be approved before we can submit an application. So because this is so competitive and likely to go fast, there is a need to act fast and get an application in as soon as possible. So what we would propose is that we schedule a public hearing and get this notice out tomorrow if I can get everything lined up. And the notice has to be out for 5 days before the public hearing is held. And so if we schedule a public hearing for next Tuesday would probably work. We could hold the hearing, have the notice out tomorrow, hold the hearing in adequate time. At the same time, if we can schedule a special meeting for after the hearing ends, that way we can hold the hearing and then have the minutes, close the hearing, have the minutes of that hearing then approved immediately after at the next meeting that's held that same night. And that gives us approved minutes that we can then submit our application. So that's Oregon recommended that we do in the interest of time to get something submitted as soon as possible. But I would recommend that we do that and we can get everything else together as we get, it gives me time to get everything else lined up and worked out.
Question. The Boys and Girls Club gets money for Sweet Home. That needs to stay in Sweet Home's Boys and Girls Club. It can't go into Lebanon. I'm going to take care of that for us. That's my opinion. I'll stick to that. And then, so the timeline is tight. So you recommend we have something next Tuesday, get that done?
I am recommending that we hold a public hearing. I would suggest Tuesdays as a good date. That's flexible, but sooner is better than later. It has to be at least 5 days after we publish notice of the public hearing. So if we, get something published as soon as possible, I think Tuesday could work out. But I have to kind of look at the requirements of where we can post and publication times for news outlets. But on regarding the keeping money within Sweet Home, I appreciate that. The one thing to keep in mind is that this money is entirely, there's no match, and so there's no commitment of funds from the city of Sweet Home. It essentially just uses our presence, our relationship with the state and the federal government to get an application submitted. So yes, it would be ideal to keep that all within Sweet Home. For other CDBG grants that we've done in the past, like the home repair program, we've been the fiduciary and it's open to the entire county. So it's not unusual for us to be in a relationships like that, and also recognize that the Boys and Girls Club does provide service to folks in our region that affects Sweet Home. You know, if somebody who works in Sweet Home but lives in Lebanon needs childcare, we don't really care which site they have it at. We want them to be able to work here in Sweet Home.
The Boys and Girls Club is doing really good.
And I was working with the YAC, they would communicate with their kids and bring them to our events here. It was really cohesive. It was very good. And I think that part of that, putting that together, that partnership with Lebanon would all come together. I also think that if we do the application rather than Lebanon, because of the historical demographics of economics within our community, we are more likely to go up in that priority list. They have a lot of assets and things going on in a larger population, that our needs were, a lot of them were pre-existing, and we have a lot of people who the outreach could be increased and we could do very well. We just had a conversation during the Community Health Committee meeting about young people not even knowing how to budget, and how do you maintain your independence and your ability to keep that job and your health and all of those things, your sanity, if you can't manage a healthy budget. And so there's all kinds of little pieces that are going on here. And I think that if you approach the state right, with the right dialogue, that we could actually really benefit from that. So.
I agree with Councilor Gorley, but I also agree with Councilor Trask. It always seems like the fairness balances.
That's right. We need to apply.
Yeah, but
Mr. Mayor, my point there is that with our economics that we have in our town, we are what I would consider way worse than, how's that? I don't want to say that. We're not in the position that Lebanon is when it comes to finances. And so I think that would be very important for me to make sure that it's a fair system, and I'm sure it will be. I'm not saying it won't be, but I think we need to be cautious of that and aware that, you know, but it sounds like a very good plan. I mean, program, it does.
Now, the Boys and Girls Club example, that's a possibility. We're not necessarily committed to that, but we are open to other options as well. And so if there are public services that you see as needed to expand in our community other than childcare, in some other ways, this is a good time to kind of give me some direction on which way we should go.
Here's my point, is that where you put it towards, but if you partner up with Lebanon, you can see 10% Sweet Home, 9% Lebanon. Seems like that's what was happened there.
I know Lebanon is doing their own application for, when it comes to the public service expansion grant, Lebanon's putting their own application in for something. I don't know what exactly it's going to be. We would be putting in our own, whether it's in partnership with the Boys and Girls Club or with the Senior Center, who knows? At this point, it's up in the air. The other grant would be a collaboration of cities, and the reason to band together is that they would be much more likely to receive the funding at all.
That's what I was talking about.
Right, and while it's, you know, ideal that we want to make sure that our businesses are getting their fair share, and we can try to make sure that there's measures in place with the there would need to be an intergovernmental agreement with those communities on that, and so we could work out ways to protect ourselves. But the important thing is we need to make sure that we are as cooperative with others as possible, because it's going to make the application more likely to succeed.
And getting the word out before next Tuesday is going to be a little bit of a challenge, I would assume.
Well, I mean, with that, it's really just following the federal guidelines of what notice they what they've said when it comes to putting out this notice. The rules say you gotta hold a public hearing. They don't say how long the public hearing has to be or where it's held or whatever. It just that we have to hold one, and it has to be at least 5 days after you've posted notice, and it gives guidelines on what counts as notice. So we will follow those guidelines, and not anything that takes any longer than those guidelines.
Well, my question would be, because the new air's not gonna be out on Tuesday, I mean, for, you would do on Wednesday, the reaction comes out on Wednesday, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So that might be a challenge for somebody to have there, because they'll put something out and.
Right, so we would look for other options. We would look to see what electronic postings would be satisfactory to the feds, and we would look at other publications if necessary.
Okay.
Whatever we can do to get out as soon as possible.
So, where this is different. One we talked about last time, right? So it's going to be important down the road that we differentiate these for the small business owner who's trying to get some help. The information needs to be pretty succinct.
It's going to be a challenge, and most of that is going to be, I imagine that we're going to be getting the word out on, if we're selected by the state, which we still don't know yet. And if we're, to have this go through well, we're going to have to be very careful with our messaging, but we're also going to have to be, most of it's going to have to be staff's ability to communicate that to people who ask us about it. Because I think the average Joe is going to see all these different things, and they're just going to want to talk to somebody who knows what they're doing. And so hopefully we can be ready for those questions. Mostly it's going to be me. But as for the state program that we talked about last time, that we submitted everything on time for that. And last Friday morning, I got an email with some additional questions, which I had until this evening to respond to, and I responded to those this afternoon. And so we're just waiting around to hear if they approve it or not. See.
It's ironic that we have questions on the criteria because we used their criteria.
Right.
So we need to establish a meeting next week. Is that what the council would like to do?
Yeah. So I guess the one question I would have is, if we put notice out tomorrow, does tomorrow count as a notice day, or do you have to count the following day? If tomorrow would count, then yeah, 5 days would be Tuesday. If tomorrow doesn't count, then and is it 5 working days, or is it just 5 days?
Right. I'll need to get some answers to that.
Okay.
So first thing in the morning, I'll be talking to Business Oregon.
Yeah. So we could do it as early as Monday, or as late as a Wednesday. So I guess we would ask the 4 of you, keep your calendars clear, Monday night, Tuesday night, and Wednesday night, and we'll communicate that with you, answers to those tomorrow.
That won't work for me. Tuesday won't work for.
Wednesday,
No.
I'm not going to be coherent.
Could be a fun meeting.
It could be a fun meeting.
Might be the funnest meeting you've ever attended.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I think somebody needs to figure that out, obviously, and I don't care what day it is for me, but it's.
Are you available?
4 of us, I guess we.
After maybe 4 on Tuesday, but not before, and not on Wednesday.
Okay, so after 4 on Tuesday for Councilor Rory, Councilor Trask.
That's fine with me.
Okay, Councilor Nash, Councilor Goebel, Tuesday after 4?
Anytime's fine for me. Just whenever you guys figure out a time and a day, just let me know and I'll make myself available.
Okay. Well.
It'll definitely have to be after 4.
Okay, so let's go ahead. We at least got 4 or more for Tuesday after 4 o'clock. So just let the councilors know. I'll be here. I'll be available after 4 on Tuesday, but not Wednesday. So, we will go ahead and do that. Anything else for city manager report? Okay. Any department director reports need to be brought up?
I would just point you particularly to the finance reports, particularly the graphs on 215 and 216. It will show you that our revenues actually track slightly higher than the last 5-year average. And it will show you our expenses are slightly higher than the 5-year average as well, so.
I've seen the police chief, Chief Flynn. How are you doing?
We're doing well over here.
Keep up the good work.
Well, I appreciate that. We're just, we're waiting for the governor to make some other decisions. We're still operating as we have been under the phase 1 and look forward to moving on.
Thank you, Jeff. And once again, keep up the good work.
Thank you.
City attorney, anything you want to add? Council business good of order, any?
Mr. Mayor, I just want to say how grateful I am to be a part of this community. Just watching the Simonis family and the tragedy they've endured this weekend and the outreach to them.
Yeah.
It's just wonderful to watch this. I mean, he was my daughter's bus driver for years, just the nicest guy. So I'm just so grateful to be a part of this community. So.
Yeah, on behalf of the city, condolences to the family. So it's a tragedy, and fortunately, you know, the whole good chunk of a family is gone. And that's another reason why I wish people would just not drink and drive. Just not a good thing. Nothing else. We will go ahead and adjourn at 7:30.
Do not adjourn. I do have something else.
Oh, sorry, Councilor Goebel, go ahead. Didn't catch it.
Charter review. I want to talk about the charter review. I think we're at that time. We do have a committee, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
So we've talked about doing some things, and it's that time of the year where I think we should look at doing that. And one of the things that I have down here is, you know, we talked about making it a community vote for the mayor position, for the popular vote, and we talked about changing of the readings down to 1 time instead of 3 long times. And we should probably talk about how we notice things and maybe bring it more into today. Those are my thoughts. So is that anything we think we could move to that committee to look at?
Yeah, now that we're technologically functional and able to bring groups together, yeah, I think we can do that.
Sounds like a good plan.
That's all I have.
Okay. Anything else, council, good business order? Okay, we will go ahead and adjourn the council meeting at 7:41.